Hi, I'm Susan, a 32-year-old single woman who is proud of running a $25 million business. But let me tell you, this success didn't just fall into my lap. My ex-husband Ryan was part of this journey, though not in the way you might think. He had a knack for making me feel small and worthless, but strangely that pushed me to prove him wrong. The story began when I was 26, fresh out of fashion school. I moved to Portland, eager to jump into the fashion industry, but breaking into that world was tough. I eventually landed a job as a brand consultant for an art and antiques company. That's where I met Ryan, at an art museum. He was splashing money on fancy pieces, and even though he wasn't my usual type, we hit it off. Fast forward 2 years, and we got married. I moved into his luxurious mansion. He was the head of a successful luxury adventure travel company, making 6 figures a year. Even though Ryan was focused on his career, I stayed passionate about mine, especially fashion. I was juggling my brand consultant job and my fashion side projects. Life felt repetitive, with the same 9-to-5 routine during the week and dinner parties on the weekends. In my free time, I would often be found sewing away. I had a vision and had been experimenting with fabrics for a long time. Back in college, I used to make custom dresses for people, and I was pretty good at it. But starting a fashion label was a whole different challenge. It was huge. I had some savings, but launching a company needed more money, so I asked Ryan for help. Hey, I've been thinking about starting a business. I've been putting my dreams on hold for too long, and since we're not planning on having a baby anytime soon, now seems like the perfect time. If that's what you really want, Ryan said. You know, running a business isn't easy. It's going to take a lot of hard work. I know, I replied. I've thought it through, but I need your help. I know it's a big ask, but could you lend me some money? Are you kidding me? I promised when we got married that we'd be in this together. Of course, I'll help you. With Ryan's support, I took the leap and started my own company. The first few months were crazy, and the workload was overwhelming. I was working day and night, even on weekends. But as the months went on, things between Ryan and me started to fall apart. Our jobs were taking over our lives, leaving little time for each other. We barely talked, and having dinner together was a rare occasion. I kept telling myself that once the company found its footing, I'd be able to balance things better. But life didn't go as planned. The company wasn't doing well. We had invested a lot of money into top-quality materials and the best designers, but the customers just weren't coming. I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. Maybe the marketing wasn't working. My confidence took a nosedive, and I started to think I had made a huge mistake. I needed a break, so Ryan suggested we throw a dinner party to reconnect with our friends. It had been a while since we had seen them. My social life had become all about the company, so I thought, why not? We decided to invite 2 couples we were close to, Daniel and his wife Margaret, and Logan and his wife Ariella. None of us had the time or energy to cook, so we ordered food from a steakhouse instead. I managed to make some brownies for dessert, and when our guests arrived, the conversation started flowing. I felt myself relaxing, like I was taking a little break from all the stress just by catching up with good friends. Hey, before we start, I just want to say thanks for hosting us, Susan, one of my friends said. You're the reason we're having this dinner, to celebrate your success. Oh, thanks guys, I replied. I'm lucky to have friends like you. You've come a long way, Susan. Cheers to your amazing business journey. Absolutely. Hey Ryan, how about that bottle of Dom Perignon we got? Let's open it to mark the occasion. Of course, let's make it special, Ryan said. You guys know how to turn any gathering into a celebration. That's how we roll. Here we go, the good stuff. To friendship, success, and the little moments that make life special. Cheers. All right, let's dig in. Everyone, help yourselves, someone said as we all started eating. Susan, you've really created something amazing with your creativity. I saw some of your designs in the back, Logan commented. Thanks, Logan, I said. It's been a wild ride. Seriously, you're like a business guru now, another friend added. I wouldn't go that far, but thanks, I laughed. You've got the drive, Susan. It's going to pay off soon, Logan encouraged. I'm just trying my best, I said. But then Ryan cut in. Susan's business venture sounds brave and all, but honestly, running a company takes more than just passion. We've invested so much money in this business, but let's be real. It's a money-losing machine. Dude, that's harsh, someone said, trying to lighten the mood. I'm just being real here. If I had that kind of cash, I could have done wonders, Ryan continued. Ryan, seriously? I asked, shocked. Hey Susan, not everyone's cut out for the business grind. Maybe you should have just stuck to making those dresses that look like grandma gowns, he added with a smirk. Alright, enough business talk, guys, one of my friends said, trying to change the subject. Remember that epic road trip we took? When the GPS led us through the middle of nowhere? Oh man, that was something, another chimed in. I half expected dinosaurs to show up. But the damage was done. The whole vibe of the evening turned awkward. I sat there stunned, thinking, did Ryan really just say all that? It was like I didn't even recognize him anymore. Had things between us really gotten this bad? The tension between Ryan and me lingered throughout the meal. I knew we'd need to talk once everyone left. After the party wrapped up and our friends headed home, I took a quick shower and went to bed, still feeling uneasy. Hey, can we talk about what happened at dinner tonight? I asked Ryan as he got into bed. Susan, I'm wiped out, he sighed. Is that really how you feel? Do you think my company is just a joke? I pressed. Babe, I had a bit too much to drink earlier. Logan egged me on to chug 3 beers while you were hanging with the ladies, he mumbled. Ryan, this is serious, I said, feeling frustrated. Who are we? We barely talk or connect anymore. I need some honesty here. Honesty, fine. Your company is tanking, big time. It's the worst investment I've ever made. Remember when I splurged on that crazy expensive vintage golf club? Yeah, this beats it in the dumb department, honestly. You're not cut out for this. I'm struggling to believe this. You were so supportive when I first shared my business idea. Honey, as your husband, I couldn't exactly shoot down your dreams. Wait, so you're saying you faked it? Sometimes, yeah, you can get a bit dramatic, and honestly, if I'd been completely honest, I thought you might hold it against me forever. You never told me that. Well, I'm telling you now. Think about it. You got what you wanted, didn't you? Take when we met at the museum. You were all about work, setting up that show. But instead of focusing on your job, you managed to snag a guy like me, who's pulling in 6 figures. So, you really think I'd married you just for the money? Let's be real for a second. You were stuck in that underpaid job until I invested in your company. You were and are nothing without me. I had other options, women doing better than you, but I picked you. Instead of complaining, maybe show some thanks. You know what, Ryan? Maybe we should take a break. I was devastated and hurt. Ryan was supposed to be my biggest supporter, but instead, he acted like he was the one who made me. I started questioning everything about the man I married. Taking a break seemed like the right move to clear my head. Ryan always had a huge ego. You could tell by the way he talked to our family and friends, but treating me this way, that was a shocker. So I packed my stuff and stayed at my sister Megan's place for a while. She had her own spot and needed a roommate, so I moved in. Some of my work was done from home, not just at the office we rented for the company, so I ended up hauling a lot of stuff to Megan's too. Throughout all this, Ryan didn't say a word to me. It felt like a silent standoff. Setting up at Megan's and getting organized was confusing that first week, but they say everything happens for a reason. I threw myself into work, grinding day and night. Without a man in the picture, I had plenty of time to hustle. Megan introduced me to some new people, who then connected me to more folks, and my network started expanding. I rethought my whole company strategy and decided to hit reset. Ryan had seriously underestimated me. With the right support, a positive mindset, and some encouragement, my company took off. The demand for my clothes skyrocketed. Everyone wanted them. Social media influencers were all about promoting my brand. I was on cloud 9. The truth is, Ryan had been trying to get in touch with me after I moved out. He called nearly every day, but I ignored his calls. Eventually, I thought it might be time to sort things out. I planned to swing by our house to grab my stuff, and maybe, just maybe, patch things up with Ryan and consider moving back in. When I got to the house, Ryan wasn't there. I went into my old office first, gathered my things, and then figured I'd leave him a voicemail. Hey, I swung by and used my spare key to grab a few things, but there's more to it. I wanted to see you too. I might have gone a bit overboard. I paused the voicemail as I walked into our bedroom, and my jaw practically hit the floor. There were women's clothes all over the bed, a black silk robe, a couple of dresses, even makeup scattered on the dresser. It hit me like a truck. Ryan had been seeing someone else while still married to me, and to make it worse, he had brought her into our bedroom. I snooped around a bit, hoping for some other explanation, but deep down, I knew the truth. It was staring me in the face. I dug through the closet, and sure enough, there was a whole collection of this other woman's stuff. Bags, jewelry, shoes, you name it. I took the long way home, needing time to process everything. When I finally got back, I broke down in front of Megan. Hey, why the tears? Did things not go well with Ryan? My life with Ryan is done, Meg. No, what happened? Did he say something? It's cool, we can talk to him and sort things out. It's not about what he said, Meg, it's about what I saw. I walked into our bedroom expecting to just grab my stuff, and what do I see? Another woman's clothes are everywhere. Wait a second, are you saying he's been messing around with someone else? Like cheating? Yep, you got it. And not just anyone else, Meg. He brought her into our bedroom, our freaking personal sanctuary. Can you believe that? Oh, Sue, I'm speechless. That's like a whole new level of mess. I'm so damn sorry you're going through this. Honestly, Meg, I'm not sure if I'll ever be okay again. I mean, here I was, second-guessing my decision to take a break from him, thinking I was overreacting. And then I walk in and... Sue, listen to me. You're so strong, and you deserve way better than this. We'll get through this mess together, step by step. Look, you've got that big fashion event coming up. Promise me you'll focus on that, okay? Don't let this mess with your head. You know what, Meg? There's just one step I'm taking. I'm calling my lawyer tomorrow to get that divorce ball rolling, and the next time I'm facing Ryan is when I'm handing him those damn papers. I just can't find the words to say to him. The disgust is too real. Are you sure about this? I mean, maybe you're rushing into it? Nope, Meg, I'm sure. He had the nerve to diss me and act like some hero for choosing me over better girls. But cheating and fooling around with someone else? Sorry, but that's a deal breaker for me. Whatever you decide, Sue, I've got your back. Your call, your life. I'm in your corner all the way. I stuck to my word and called my lawyer, so the whole divorce thing was in motion. Meanwhile, I had this massive marketing event for my company. Big shots and major names were going to be there, so I had to keep my head in the game. And trust me, my company was in full bloom. Not to boast, but let's just say I made some pretty lavish purchases for myself. Anyway, I made sure to invite all my friends to the event. When the big day came, famous faces, social media stars, and just regular peeps like my friends were all in the mix. I was running around, making sure everyone was having a blast. But then the security guys pulled me aside and told me there was this drunken dude at the entrance causing a ruckus. His name was Ryan. I was fuming. He must have heard about this through our mutual friends. I made my way to the entrance. Seriously, Ryan? Is this who you've turned into? I could ask you the same thing. Just go, Ryan. There's no room for you here. And what about you? Look at this whole spectacle you've created. What exactly are you trying to prove? Ryan, can we just? You thought throwing a party and gathering people would magically make you important and successful. You're a screw-up. This is a screw-up. Let's not do this now, okay? We can talk tomorrow. Sure, go ahead and do what you're great at. Find another rich guy in there and bleed him dry, you vampire. I reached my limit and finally had enough. I made sure he got escorted out. The whole night was ruined for me. My mood hit rock bottom. But I decided to keep the incident to myself. I didn't want to spoil anyone else's time. By then, I'd grown so much stronger and I knew what I had to do. The very next day, I sent him a hefty check, just to prove a point and deflate that massive ego of his. He tried calling me for days afterward, but I gave him radio silence. Finally, the divorce papers came through. I decided to give them to him face to face, and let me tell you, it wasn't just one paper I wanted to hand over, it was two. He spent ages tearing me down, making me feel like I was worth nothing. He wrecked our marriage and even succeeded in raining on my parade during my big day. That was the tipping point for me. No more humility, no more pitying him. Sometimes you've got to show your true self and stand up to these self-absorbed types. I headed over to our place, knocked on the door, and Ryan answered. We stepped inside. Honey, I'm sorry for everything. You know, it started as a joke and got out of hand. Yeah, we had our differences, but... Enough, Ryan. You think you're innocent in all of this? I know the truth, Ryan. What do you mean? You've been cheating on me while I was away, and I don't even know. Did this happen before I moved out too? Is this why you kept saying you weren't ready for a baby? Who told you that? Who snitched on me? Wow. I can't believe this. What's wrong? You know what, I don't even want to know. Our marriage has been a complete train wreck. You weren't here and things got messed up. But what we have is real. Real? Ryan, you don't respect me, you don't love me, you just care about yourself. Is that what you think marriage is? I didn't even cash the check you sent me. I want us to be together. Let's move past this. You know what? You should cash it. It's just money, and honestly, it means nothing to me. But you made such a fuss about it all these years. Come on, Susan, just let it go. What's your deal? I'll tell you what my deal is. I have 2 things for you. Check this out. What's this? Divorce papers. It's time we put an end to this mess. Wow, so you're really leaving me? You think you can just walk out like this? Ryan, it's not about thinking I can, it's about knowing I need to. Come on, Susan. You're not seriously doing this, are you? We've been through so much. Hold up. What's this? Oh, just a little something I thought you might find interesting. My balance sheet for the $25 million business you thought was a joke. Wait a minute, you're telling me this is your business? Ding, 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 you got it, Ryan. The same business you called a money-losing machine. But how the heck did you? Oh well, that's the thing. While you were busy doubting me, I was hustling behind the scenes, making strategic moves and building my empire. Surprise. No way, this is insane. You did all of this without me. Yep, without you. It turns out I don't need someone dragging me down with their negativity. I can't believe it, you've outdone yourself. Funny how success looks good on me, huh? Ryan was seriously shaken. I've never seen him so speechless in my life. His whole I'm Mr. Know-It-All vibe was gone. He seemed like he'd swallowed a lemon or something. With the divorce papers signed, I finally feel a sense of relief. I am officially single and ready to take on the world, starting with New York, the fashion epicenter, next month. Word on the street is that Ryan has turned our old place into some kind of bachelor hangout. Apparently, he's constantly moping around, wallowing in his own regrets. Meanwhile, I'm out here, totally owning the success game. It's like this constant high of proving him dead wrong. There's no need for someone else to define my worth. I've got that covered, thanks.
When my daughter got home from a Christmas party at her grandparents' house, she was in tears. She looked upset as she quietly gave me a wrapped gift. "Look at this, Mom," she asked. "Why do I have to go through this?" I didn't know what to say. As soon as I opened the package, I knew it wasn't right. As a child, I instantly called the police to report what happened, which led to the gift giver's actions being made public and causing chaos. This event caused a lot of trouble in the family, and the person who did it had to deal with harsh results. I started a new job at age 34 after a rude comment from a previous boss. I am now 45 years old, and my younger husband works for the same company. At my current job, skills are more important than age or gender, and my husband, who was my boss at the time, was very supportive. We got married right away and now have a sweet 4th grade daughter who loves to read and is kind to everyone. However, I don't get along well with my husband's sister. Even though I get along well with my in-laws, she doesn't like that I'm older than my husband and makes fun of how quickly we got married. It hurt to hear her say mean things about my age and the changes in my body from being pregnant, but I tried to keep my cool for my own peace of mind. Her attitude only changed after she had a quick wedding and moved away, which cut down on our time together and stopped her from making fun of me. This change lets me focus on getting ready to meet our daughter. Even though giving birth was hard, the birth of our daughter was a happy event in our lives that cleared the sadness that had been affecting our happiness. During the birth of our daughter, it was very important for me to have my husband's steadfast support and positive words. When she cried for the first time in the delivery room, His thanks and appreciation for my work made us both cry tears of joy. But 5 months after our daughter was born, my sister-in-law had a boy and started coming to our house again. Each visit took an hour. Her goal seemed to be to make negative comparisons between our kids and to say mean things about my age, which made my daughter feel bad. She said it was clear from the lines she said were on my daughter's face compared to her child's smooth skin. Her brazenness astounded me as I was adjusting to being a parent for the first time. She wouldn't bring any baby necessities with her, but she would leave with diapers and formula, saying she didn't want to run out. This action really confused me. It seemed like the main reason she came was to put me down and then take goods, like it was her right. Because of her husband's job, they had to move to a different state, so she stopped visiting. This brought some peace for a short time, until our daughter started grade school and found out that her cousin was also there. Even though our family relationships were tense, our daughter and her cousin became close friends. She took care of him because she was older, nicer, and more honest. He became well-liked by his friends. They were in the same class by the 3rd grade, and my daughter got praise for a reading review she did over the summer. It was even printed in the local newspaper. Family and friends were talking about this accomplishment, especially when I visited my in-laws. A lot of family members got together this time, maybe because my daughter got an award. But my sister-in-law seemed uneasy about the attention our family was getting. A woman claimed that it was unfair and said the famous book was meant for her son, even though the kids had already read both books and agreed to trade them. The fact that they chose which book report to write together was a team effort that my nephew liked. This event showed how the kids could share and help each other, which was very different from the adults' arguments and confusion. My nephew really liked the book my daughter read first, so she was kind and let him pick it out. When I told my sister-in-law this story, she wrongly thought I wrote the award-winning reflection for my daughter. She may have remembered that I liked writing books in college, which she probably got from my husband and didn't tell me. She was also spreading lies at school about me, saying that I had used my personal ties with the competition judges to give my daughter's entry an unfair edge. The spread of these false charges made my daughter so sad that she stopped enjoying reading, which she used to really enjoy. For me, this was the last blow. I couldn't stand to see her so down, both because of the lies being spread about me and because she was the target of mean-spirited rumors. I told my husband about his sister's mean behavior toward me for the first time since we got married before I did anything else. This included taking clothes meant for our daughter, saying mean things about my looks while I was pregnant, and comparing me to a sumo wrestler because she thought babies couldn't tell the difference between gender-specific clothes. My husband agreed that it was time to involve his parents because he was so angry about his sister's behavior. He insisted on telling my sister-in-law about the problem in person, so he went to her house with his parents. Her initial happiness at having her family visit out of the blue quickly turned to shock when my husband gave her a harsh warning. When she was called out, she got angry and blamed me for exposing her to her favorite brother. By making herself the victim, she was trying to avoid taking responsibility. At first, I returned her calls because I thought she was trying to make things right. But it turned out she was just venting her anger. In the end, I set her phone number to go straight to voicemail, so when she tried to call, I didn't answer. I thought at first that she had lost interest when the calls stopped after a few weeks. It turned out that wasn't the reason, though. My in-laws hosted their first ever children's Christmas party in December, which made me wonder why they chose that month. No matter what, my daughter was thrilled to be asked. She remembered the fun Christmas party she had in kindergarten and hoped for something similar at her elementary school, but they couldn't hold one because of their policy on religious events. I'd often wonder why people have to strictly follow faith traditions when Christmas has become a holiday that people all over the world love and celebrate in their own unique ways. I've been noticing that some parents are very careful to keep their faith in mind when they talk about their kids. My daughter and I have celebrated Christmas quietly at home for the past 2 years, choosing to enjoy the holiday in our own unique way. She really liked the gift swap, which was one of the best parts of our party. This year, my in-laws offered a straightforward budget of $11 for a gift exchange at their Christmas party. My daughter and I went on a little trip to a nearby huge shopping mall to look for the right gift. She finally chose one of her favorite picture books because she wanted to tell someone else about the story and how much it made her happy. On the day of the party, she left with the gift and went to my in-laws' house, which was only a short bus ride from our house. After telling my mother-in-law that she was coming, she offered to pick her up from the bus stop. Later, she called to let me know that my daughter had arrived safely, which temporarily eased my fears, but the peace didn't last long. After only 50 minutes, the sound of the front door opening on a weekday caught me off guard. My husband was at work, and I was working from home while my daughter was on winter break. The scene I saw when I got there broke my heart. My daughter crying by the door. She gave me a gift-wrapped bag that looked like the things inside would make sense of everything. I found a scary card written in red ink inside the bag, along with a newspaper with her reading reflection torn into pieces. The card warned us not to be too cocky, or we might end up like the mutilated stuffed animal inside the bag, which was cut up and stained with red ink to look like blood. This upsetting act was not at all a harmless joke. When my daughter informed me that my sister-in-law had made this ominous gift, I was shocked. People agreed that adults would not bring gifts to the party because it was supposed to be a happy, kid-focused event. Still, even though I wasn't going with my daughter to the party, I was shocked to find out that my sister-in-law was there and did something horrible to my daughter. If my mother-in-law knew that her daughter was there, she would have told me because she always asked that we tell her about any problems her daughter caused. This misunderstanding upset me and showed that someone was trying to hurt us on purpose, but my mother-in-law didn't know about it. When my daughter got home from school, she was upset. I told her she should tell her grandma what happened. But before she could, my aunt spoke up and said that she hadn't called for her, and that only kids from Christian schools were welcome. When my daughter asked me what a mission school was, I didn't know what to say. A family member was recently accepted into a mission school, which caused a lot of talk in the family. My sister-in-law's son went to a Christian kindergarten. We had heard of family members who didn't know they had ties to these kinds of schools until they started going. We made a different choice. For our daughter, we chose a neighborhood kindergarten and a public grade school. It looked like my sister-in-law used this as another chance to put down my daughter. The frightening gift my daughter got made me very angry, so I hurried to the police station and made it clear how serious the threat was. Even though the police didn't want to get involved at first and said it should be handled as a family problem, luckily a female officer saw how serious the situation was. She understood our fear and promised to visit my sister-in-law that evening with a warning. She knew that threats and violence within families are crimes that need to be reported. I told my angry husband about what happened during the day when he got home. He spoke out against his sister's mean behavior and called his parents, who were holding the Christmas party, but said they didn't know about it. They thought my sister-in-law might have broken in through a back door that wasn't locked while my mother-in-law was busy with other things. The little kids in the family were given the party to plan. After the police officer gave my sister-in-law a harsh warning about what would happen if she didn't change, my in-laws, worried that she might have done something wrong, called a family meeting to talk about it. My sister-in-law and her husband showed up late to the meeting at my in-laws' house. She was clearly upset and not sorry about the police presence, and her husband didn't seem to know what the meeting was for. This situation made the problem seem even worse, which led the family to talk about how to move forward and deal with the root problems. When the husband of my sister-in-law's sister finally found out what his wife had done to our family, he was shocked. Before that, he had no idea how bad things were. When he apologized to us, he seemed truly sorry, which was very different from my sister-in-law, who stayed stubborn and refused to say sorry. Everyone remained silent as she argued that the fact that the police did not arrest her proved her innocence, which was difficult for us to comprehend. Surprisingly, he told her he was going to divorce her. No one saw any outward signs of trouble in their marriage, so this news shocked everyone. He gave a history of putting up with her behavior, which had gone from ignoring housework and child care to making people afraid because she wasn't paying attention. Her concern with how she looked led her to make a lot of moves that weren't necessary. She didn't do these things because it was necessary for her job. Rather, she did them because she was vain and wanted to maintain a certain social status. She often said that their moves were okay because she had high hopes for their son. For example, she tried to get him into fancy kindergartens but failed, which made her feel even worse about herself. In the end, they chose a public school because that's what their son wanted. Even though his wife didn't want to at first, her father supported the choice. The husband's decision to divorce her wasn't a spontaneous one. Rather, it was the result of years of resentment that her most recent abuse had exacerbated. When she heard about the divorce, my sister-in-law was caught off guard. She tried to say sorry, but it was weak and seemed like a last-ditch effort to fix things by saying they were just jokes or pranks. But her actions, especially the mean message she sent to a child, were too serious to be laughed off. This kind of behavior, which could make even adults scared, was unacceptable and showed how trust had been broken in the family forever. I talked to her about it and pointed out how different her actions were from what a caring mom would do. I told her, just because you're a parent doesn't mean you automatically have parental instincts. I meant to show that her behavior was very different from what someone in that job should do. When my husband saw her crying, he told her very clearly that crying wasn't going to help. She shouldn't think that pity will make people forgive her, especially since she is old. She kept crying even though she didn't do anything wrong and wondered why she was being blamed. She even said that the family didn't like me because I was married to her brother, which made it sound like the problem was with me being older than her. The fact that she didn't understand how bad her actions were left us all speechless. My husband was especially shocked that she didn't get it. There was a lot of unsolved stress in the room, so the conversation stopped all of a sudden. Her husband had to take her home. She refused to accept responsibility for her errors, which harmed the divorce process later. It wasn't until her son told her the truth about the Christmas party that things changed, and she reluctantly agreed to the divorce. Her son told his friends about the scary gift exchange he saw, especially the upsetting picture of a stuffed animal that was smashed and stained with red that looked like blood. People at school heard about the statement very quickly, which made both teachers and parents worried. After this news came out, it was hard for my daughter to go back to school. The event and the rumors that connected her to her cousin's story made her feel down. People started to guess what link there was between her absence and what happened at the Christmas party, which showed how one careless action can change the lives of many people. I had thought that everything could have been taken care of quietly so that my daughter could go back to school when she was ready. When her cousin told her about the upsetting event, it wasn't to make her laugh. It was a desperate plea for his mother to stop doing what was hurting him. When her husband saw how these revelations affected people, he felt he had to speed up the divorce process and agreed to her terms just to end their split. By that time, she was really well known in the neighborhood for being scary around kids, which made her friends avoid her and even neighbors dislike her. She felt stuck and shamed, so she saw the split as a way out. She thought that going back to live with her parents would make her feel better, but her ex-husband was adamant about keeping custody of their son, and she didn't fight the decision. Instead, she coldly told her son that she didn't care about him because she was planning to get married again and kids were getting in the way of her plans. Her mean words made her son bravely turn her down. He told her he didn't need her in his life and that he was happier with his dad's care. He also told her not to talk to his cousin. When she went back to her parents' house, she was not allowed to stay, which made things worse for her. She had to deal with the effects of her acts by herself. Her downhill spiral put her in dangerous positions. For basic needs, taking out loans from sketchy sources, and then she disappeared from our lives. My husband and his parents decided not to file a missing persons report because they saw her absence as an answer. After that, my daughter got the courage to go back to school, where her cousin is still there to support her and promised to look out for her. Unexpectedly, this hard time has brought our families closer together, especially with my ex-brother-in-law, as we work together to help the kids. In the absence of my sister-in-law, my in-laws have taken care of and loved both of my grandkids with open arms. Now that she's not around, our family is at peace and has built a strong, trusted bond that was missing before. I'm Tiffany. I worked full-time before I got married. But the truth is that that company had terrible places to work. I had nearly 90 hours of extra work that wasn't paid. Even though I was going to be married, I thought about working, but I quit because of health problems. I now follow a healthy routine and go to bed and wake up at normal times. After I quit, my health got a lot better. My husband, Theo, didn't disagree with my choice to quit. He seems to love that I'm home doing jobs and waiting for him to get home from work. Whenever we were first married, he would say, "I'm so lucky to have a wife who welcomes me home." That thought had become a given after 5 years, which was to be expected. Things still go wrong every so often. When we visit, my mother-in-law, Sarah, who used to be nice, always asks, "When will you give me a grandchild?" She always says it when Theo isn't there. Hearing this over and over again for years has caused me a lot of stress. Honestly, the only reason I have any desire to see her is to avoid her company, as she makes me feel awful. John is my father-in-law. He is quiet, nice, and doesn't get in the way. The strange thing is that Theo says kids are a pain and cost a lot. But when his folks find out, he acts like it doesn't matter to him. I once told him, "If you don't want kids, tell your parents." He laughed it off and said, "Isn't that a conversation for a woman?" When things need to be done right, he avoids duty by sticking to his own ethics. Thus, in the eyes of his mother, I am the wife who is unable to conceive, whereas he prefers the husband who is able to do so. Finally, I tried to be clear by saying, Theo doesn't want kids. But Sarah, who is sure I can't get pregnant, said, "You were just trying to blame someone else." John tells Sarah not to get in the way of our decisions sometimes, but she doesn't listen. Theo finally doesn't want to deal with the stress of being a parent, but he also doesn't want to make his mom mad either. It's clear that he always wants to make his mom happy. I really didn't think he'd be this unstable. He would likely save his mother before me if the ship was sinking. Yes, he's a bit old-fashioned, but at least you're not living with them, my mom says on a call during the week in the afternoon. I've talked to my mom a lot about Theo and Sarah over the past year. My mom is quiet, but she makes sense. She listens slowly and often makes me feel better. At times, I experience guilt due to my belief that a wife ought not to disclose her troubled marriage to her parents. However, my mother is the only one who truly understands this, since Theo is absent. I'm sorry for always talking about this. I know you have your struggles too. It's okay. Mom's fine now. The hospital tests showed nothing wrong. In fact, she just got a pacemaker and had surgery on her heart 3 months ago. I was scared when I learned she was going to have surgery, but she laughed it off. I remember telling my husband about it, and he said, "Pacemakers are pretty common these days. It's not that big of a deal." But when his own mother hurt her ankle, he freaked out and told me he'd help out without being asked first. Talk about having 2 sets of rules. Putting a bandage on an ankle is not nearly as important as having surgery. I always whine on the phone, and because I live so far away, I don't get to see my family very often. This time, I'm going to surprise my mom on her birthday with a trip with my dad because I haven't been the best daughter to them in the past. I'm home. Dinner's ready. My husband always says as he sits down to eat. No longer does he really say anything about the food, but I was excited about the plan my dad and I made. Actually, my mom's birthday is coming up. "Oh," he said after pausing to eat his steak and taking a puzzled look at me. "I was thinking of booking a hotel in Lake Tahoe and taking a trip there." Really? He didn't seem very interested. The hotel is pretty fancy, and a lot of people like it here. This person helped me a lot. His eyes lit up when he heard the word luxury. A fancy hotel. "We're going to have different rooms from your parents, right?" "Of course we are. They're both going to be there, so why don't we go see some sights in Lake Tahoe together?" "Sure." "Oh well, at least he seems interested." Since he spends most of his time with his parents, he shouldn't mind going on trips with mine every once in a while. Lucky for me, my parents are taking care of everything this time, so I don't have to plan the date or the hotel. It's like I let them handle everything. Where are you going? I need to ask for time off. While I was packing in the bedroom, my husband threw the question over his shoulder. Did I not tell you? The 23rd and 24th are the dates. Oh, right. When I turned around, I saw him playing around with his phone without thinking. It's all the gifts for Sarah that were forgotten, among other things. Of course, today had something to do with my choice. Out of the blue, my angry mother-in-law yelled, "A woman like you who doesn't work or even have kids should be thankful just to be married." I didn't feel scared when I realized I could also cut ties with her. Look, don't put me down. Also, just so you know, it was your son who didn't want kids because he thought being a parent would be hard. He probably never said that though. My wife's mother just sat down shocked. She had always thought it was my fault, but she didn't know that her son had made the choice all along. So my father-in-law took my husband and mother-in-law away, and I went on a family trip with my folks. You had quite the eventful birthday, didn't you? My mom said, "I'm sorry," in her normal happy voice. As long as you are happy, that's all that matters. But I had no idea he was that bad. I should have stopped by earlier to see how things were going. I no longer give a damn about it, as I have been living that way for an extended period of time. It was a wake-up call. My dad was pretty quiet, but there was a hint of happiness on his face. After that, my husband and I got a divorce, but it looks like his relationship with his mom has gotten worse. He was never kind, and I was always in charge of everything except his job. It was said that his room turned into a garbage dump without me there. It looks like my ex-mother-in-law cleans up for him often. But she's about to lose it because she fights a lot with her son, who she used to love. The cops were called because their fight got so bad. My ex-father-in-law says she did this to herself by giving their son too many good things. It's interesting that on the day of the hotel incident, my ex-mother-in-law was friendly with the head of a neighborhood organization. Was also taking a break there. He saw all of her crazy behavior. People in her community no longer value her because she is seen as the mother of the husband who forced his wife to leave him. For myself, I landed a job at the hotel that my uncle owns. He hired me without telling anyone that I'm related to the owner because he was looking for work after his split. I'm now learning from staff members who have more experience. The hotel job takes careful attention. There are still things I haven't learned in times when I've been told I was wrong. But it's a big change from the housework I used to do that no one noticed. Everything that is done here is praised. He looked truly angry. After I get married, my parents should usually come first. Tell your parents to go home. What? That's correct. From now on, it's just the two of us and our son. My mother-in-law said without missing a beat. I was really hurt. I never thought he would be this way. Where did my kind husband go after we got married? Then a big man in a suit quickly came up to us. Is there a problem? My mother-in-law started talking very quickly before he could finish. Get rid of these people. We'll use their last few nights. I'm sorry, but we can't do that. She snapped. Why not? They have already paid, and we have them booked until the day after tomorrow. She glared at me in anger. She is married to my son. What my son's wife and her parents own is pretty much ours. Just a nod from my husband. Every feeling I had at that moment just blew up when I saw that scene. The man said he was sorry, but they couldn't do that. She told him, first of all, you're letting such ugly people stay here. Will it make the hotel look bad? My husband started to blame me. I chose to go behind my husband's back and tell him the truth. You know, this place is my father's family home. My husband and mother-in-law looked at me with wide eyes. The man in the suit is my father's younger brother, which means he is my uncle. My uncle began to talk in a strong but humble way. I'm a lot younger than my brother. People in our family were busy with their hotel business at the time. He looked after me like a parent. He gave me everything I have now. When my dad heard this, he got upset and said, "You." I was so happy when I heard you were staying here because I thought I could finally repay his kindness. You think you can stay for free because it's the family of your son's wife. I could hear my wife's mother groaning. We have rooms that cost between 450 and 1800 rupees per night. If you're interested, please go to the front desk. Keep the price the same. Both my husband and his mother were shocked. What should we do? There's no other hotel that we know of. What do you think I'll say? My father-in-law let out a deep sigh as he watched them. This is karma for always taking credit for Tiffany's achievements and trying to impress your mother with them. My husband didn't seem to know what to say. I'm really sorry, everyone. He began to say, I never thought my son would do something like this. No, wait, John, I said right away. I also feel sorry for my father-in-law. His son asked him to go to the hotel, but he found out he had been. My mother-in-law seemed to have learned even more, but all of a sudden she got it. Wait, can't you give us a discount since it's a family-run hotel? After all, we're family. How can she have no shame? Has she forgotten everything she did? But my uncle said in a cool voice, I don't think of someone as family who insults my loved ones. What he said made me understand something. It was rude of my husband and mother-in-law to treat me that way all along. I was given all the hard jobs to do. They took any praise they could get. What did I do for them? They took advantage of me and put me down. There would have been no trip if they had even a little thought about my family. You've always looked down on me, haven't you? I looked at my husband, who hung his head and didn't say anything. You thought that if you pushed hard enough, my parents would let this go. That's awful. I didn't have the money to stay at that fancy hotel. I just wanted to make people like me. He glared at me with sadness in his face. My husband's father came up to me and looked upset. Doesn't this sound like you? Who are you trying to protect the most right now, huh? Your mother, who you always want to look good in front of. My husband stood still and had a serious look on his face. Listen, you are married, my father-in-law said next. Protecting your wife should be your top concern, not making your mom proud. Still, even though my husband turned away, I saw the look on his face. No matter what, he will always pick his mother. I got up the courage to speak out. John, thanks for everything you've done for me so far. You've helped me more than he ever did. He and I used to live together, but I can't do it anymore. My husband was shocked and looked up. Let's get a divorce. It made me feel so free to say the word divorce out loud. Right, I've always wanted to divorce him. Are you serious? From behind, I could hear my mom's voice. I said yes. Yes, I've been thinking about it for a while now. My husband quickly said, hold on, I'll say sorry for what happened this time. It's not just about this time. He doesn't really pay attention to me or my family, so I've told him about this trip before. But when he thought about it, his lack of response was better than his previous emotions. We drove to the fancy hotel in Lake Tahoe on the day of the trip. My parents had come the night before. We were going to explore Lake Tahoe with them today and have dinner at the hotel. They haven't been seen in a while, maybe since my mom had surgery. The two of them are retired and don't normally blow up, so this trip should be fun. I read a Lake Tahoe vacation magazine while sitting in the passenger seat. After I checked in, I was going to call my parents to the office, but they were already in the parking lot, and Sarah was standing next to them. My husband quickly pulled over, parked the car, and ran over to them. What the heck is going on? I was sure that I had explained the plan well. It didn't take me long to get out of the passenger seat and follow. What's going on there? While I was upset, my husband started talking to my parents in a smooth way. You knew about a great hotel, right? From tomorrow on, we're going to enjoy it with my parents. You paid for the stay already, right? Both of my parents were shocked. Of course they would be. This wasn't even supposed to happen. As bold as ever, my mother-in-law said, you know a lot of good hotels. Take care of it for us, okay? Let's go to Alaska next time. What are you saying? My father-in-law, on the other hand, asked my husband, didn't you invite us on this trip? He seemed to have the same lack of knowledge as we did. You said you pay for it. I could feel my blood rush to my head when I heard that. Wait a second. My parents booked this hotel for us. Why do you just stare you ready to invite yours? What's the big deal? Asked my mother-in-law. You can't keep this nice hotel all to yourself. You should care more about the parents of your husband. Because I don't get to see my parents as often as John and Sarah, I wanted to take them on a fancy trip. Also, my mom's birthday is today. With a really serious look, my mother-in-law looked at me from head to toe. You've never given me a present for my birthday. Such clear favoritism? You did send Sarah her favorite flowers recently, didn't you? That came from your son. Don't take credit for what other people do. When I looked at my husband, he tried to avoid my eyes. While we were married, I chose and gave all of the gifts. He never seemed interested in doing it. So you kept silent about the gift for Sarah. He said something terrible when he looked into my husband's eyes. I'm going to buy them with your money. It's the same as if I had chosen and bought them myself. Weren't you with Dad? Chris, my 5-year-old daughter, came home from a trip to my in-laws' house drenched. Her lips were blue, and she was shaking. I left her with my husband, Andrew, so why did she come home by herself? I called Andrew out of shock, but his tone was the same as always. He said, I didn't bring Chris along. I didn't understand what he meant. I didn't know it, but this remark was hiding the craziest secret. My name is So Moore, and I'm 32 years old. The little girl in front of me is Chris, who is 5 years old. When we first got married, we were very close. I remember how happy we were to hug each other when I told them I was pregnant. I went back to work a year after giving birth and was happy with my life. But at some point, our happy life changed. Housework is the wife's job. Even though my wife and I used to do things like housework and cleaning together. 2 years ago, Andrew all of a sudden started giving me all of the housework. But I work too, and I need your help, I said. My friend says that even if both of them work, their wives do all the housework. He replied, you should clean up more, and threw a ragged mop at my face. From then on, he was always saying bad things about the way I cleaned. He would often say to that person, you should take a leaf out of her book. That was Marion Kirk, who works as a maid for his parents. Andrew's dad ran a business and lived in a fancy house. Andrew also worked for him. Chris was also old enough that she couldn't be left alone, but Andrew didn't do much to help with parenting. Hey, what do you think Chris would like for her birthday present? I showed him a toy catalog in the living room late at night, after our daughter had gone to bed, but he only looked at the cover briefly before putting it down. Why do we have to think about things that are so unpleasant? She's our daughter, I told her. Aren't you a little cold? It's a waste of money because kids get bored so quickly, he said. I'm not spending a dime on it. Andrew yelled as he stormed off to his room with the catalog in his hands. I thought he was refusing our daughter, so I wanted to talk to him about it. But Chris woke up and said, Mommy, I need to go to the toilet. This meant that the birthday present talk had to be put on hold. We never found a good time to talk again, and I ended up spending my own money on something a toy shop worker suggested. I'll tell Chris it's a present from both Mom and Dad, I chose. I couldn't describe how I felt as I watched her happily tear the packing paper. At the same time, Andrew started spending a lot of money on himself that he wasn't making. It's for socializing for work, he told me. The fact that hundreds of dollars were being spent every week, though, made me worry about what he was doing. Hey, is it really just a work party? I wanted to know. What? You don't believe me? It's not that. I just think you might be spending too much, I told her. I'm going to be the president of the company one day. I'll pay it all back then, so don't be so petty, Andrew said. He wouldn't listen and kept using the credit card, which put our money in danger since I wasn't making any money. I started to get mad at my husband because of this. But because Andrew and I came from different places, I couldn't fully blame him. Because his mom was a stay-at-home mom, he thinks cleaning is something only women do. Since my husband is the hair, he may be going through things I can't even imagine. I chose to be patient until he realized that women work too. I promised to help him as much as I could until he becomes a great CEO like his dad and is more at ease with his life. After some time, it was a Sunday in the middle of March. Yesterday was my mother-in-law's birthday, and every year we celebrated at my in-laws' house. Their house is just down the road from ours, about a 15-minute walk at an adult's pace. It might take more than twice as long with Chris, though, because she always wants to stop at the park on the way. Also, staying the night before these kinds of important events have become the norm. I can't wait to see Grandpa and Grandma. Chris loved going to see them every time. But I had to go to work on the Saturday before my mother-in-law's birthday, right as we were getting ready to leave with our bags for my in-laws' house. Mommy's got to work. Should we go to Grandma's house tomorrow? Chris was always a pleasure to be around because he was so mature for his age. I did feel bad, though, about making my in-laws take care of a kindergartner. No, I want to go, Chris said. She was ready to go and had her favorite toys packed in her backpack. If we stay, what should we do? Should I take care of her? Let's go to my dad's house by ourselves then. But it's okay, I'll talk to them, he said, picking up the phone and calling my in-laws before I could answer. He began to describe our situation. I took Andrew's phone to at least thank my in-laws because I wanted to. I said, "I'm sorry I forced Chris on you. We're family. There's no need for formalities." "Thank you." That's right, I thought to myself. With the maid and Andrew with her, there's not much to worry about. My husband still doesn't want to help with childcare, but I held my cool and didn't let that show. They finally left our house in the afternoon, and I chose to finish my work and visit my in-laws the next day. I'm off. I quickly grabbed my work bag and got ready to go to the office. There wasn't a cloud in the sky at that time. But as time went on, the weather got worse, and by evening, it was pouring down rain. It's cold, as if to tell the future. After getting home early from work, I stayed up until 6 p.m. to rest. I was in the middle of getting ready for a relaxing bath when the doorbell at the front door rang. I was shocked to see Chris, who was drenched. "Chris, weren't you supposed to go to Grandma's house with Dad?" Chris was shaking because it was so cold. Her lips turned blue, and when I held her hands, they were as cold as ice. She said in a shaking voice, "I couldn't get into the house because I didn't have the keys." But I couldn't understand what was going on. I chose to let her take a bath first, though, because she looked so tired. In the meantime, I called Andrew to let him know what was going on. I asked, "What's going on here?" "I forgot to bring her to my dad's house," he said. "What? I believed you were looking after her." "How could I know? She left on her own." Our daughter started crying out loud on the way to my in-laws, saying she didn't want to go unless Mommy was with her. Even though my husband tried to calm her down, she refused to listen and went back home by herself. However, since it's a straightforward route to our house and she has walked it several times before, I thought she would be fine alone, so she headed to my in-laws' place on her own. "I thought you'd be busy with work, so I didn't contact you." "Wait a minute, didn't you say you were heading to your parents' house right after lunch?" "That was at 6:30 p.m. Chris shouldn't have been on her way to visit my in-laws at that time. Now that I think about it. I had some errands to take care of. It got late because I was wrapping those up. Still, I couldn't stand the fact that he let our daughter come home alone while she was drenched. Why didn't you at least give her an umbrella?" I tried to, but she said she didn't need it and ran off. But before I could say anything, Andrew, who had been pretty calm up until then, became angry. "You fuss too much. It's all your fault. Why is she such a bad child?" "She is not spoiled at all, no matter how I raise our daughter." Hearing that from my husband, who never paid attention to our daughter, made me so mad that I had to raise my voice. However, he refused to take responsibility for what he did. He finished the call by saying, "She is safe, so there's no problem," and then hung up by himself. When I tried to call him back, it looked like he had turned off his phone, and my in-law's number was set to message. I thought the only thing left to do was talk to her at this point. After things calmed down, I asked her to come over. "Why didn't you visit your grandmother today? You were excited about it." I asked. She looked down and her eyes lost their sparkle. I asked, "Is that true?" As she slowly opened her mouth to talk. She gave a deep nod, but there were still a lot of questions. I looked into everything I could in a short amount of time. That's what it was. Then I learned a shocking truth through something I didn't expect. This is terrible. I clenched my hands and said, I will never forgive them. I was determined to get back at the person who had caused my daughter so much pain. I then yelled at my in-laws, I'll be bringing Chris over tomorrow. And I couldn't sleep that night because I was so mad. I went to my in-laws' house the next day. Even the cleaner hadn't come yet. At 8:00 a.m., my daughter was playing in a room upstairs. So I went to the living room on the first floor, where my husband was still sleeping and snoring. We need to talk, I told him, nudging him awake. What's the big idea of waking me up so early in the morning? He was upset. Hey, why do Mom and Dad look so scary? Just sit down. Today is my mother-in-law's birthday, so I really did not want to set up this meeting in the first place. But my mother-in-law thought something wasn't right over the phone and said it would be better to talk about important things right away instead of later. I need you to do it quickly. He was initially complaining a lot, but after receiving a reprimand from his father, who is also the CEO of the company he works for, he reluctantly followed instructions. Hey, why did she come back yesterday so wet? Did I not tell you that she started to fuss and say she wanted to go back halfway through? Then what is this supposed to be? On the big screen of the TV, I show a certain movie. What is this? He looked shocked, and he had good reason to be. The screen showed him and Marion, the maid, hugging each other tightly in the living room of my in-laws' house, as if they were in love. When did you film this? This was really filmed with a toy camera I got her for her birthday. Andrew and the maid must not have known they were being watched because the camera was small and looked like a toy. Chris didn't really know how to use the camera, and she didn't seem to know that she was filming them. When I found this video while investigating, I was really shocked. The two in the video paid no attention to the lens. You said you came here in the evening, but you actually left the house right after lunch, didn't you? Well, that's because. And you planned to hang out with her while your parents were away. I can't believe the housekeeper slept with you. My in-laws were at the department store when they got to my in-laws' house because the birthday present they had ordered was being brought. I had already confirmed this detail over the phone with them. So you told her to play near the park because she was in the way, and then you locked her out. Who told you that, Chris? She said she couldn't get into the house because she didn't have the keys, but I didn't understand what she meant, I asked. She said he didn't answer the knock, and he was told she walked to the park, but no one came to get her, and it began to rain, which made things even worse. She did what after I told him not to tell anyone? He made a face and clicked his tongue. The park and our house are very close, and she was able to see the lights on at home and figured I had come back. How could you do such a thing while our daughter was around? Before my husband kicked her out of the house, it looked like my daughter was really into hitting the camera buttons. She didn't seem to see her father having an affair, which was the only good thing about the circumstances. He put his hands together and said, "This was a one-time mistake. I'm sorry. But I had one more trick up my sleeve." Oh, then how do you explain this? I threw a bunch of love letters on the table. They seemed to be from Andrew to Marion. You went through my room without permission. You're the one who said I should clean up more, so I just happened to find it while cleaning every nook and cranny. He worked hard to get the stack of love letters together, but I quickly grabbed one of them. Let's see. To my beloved Marion. Do you call her that? Please stop it. I love you so much. I can't wait to kiss you. Sounds like something a middle schooler wrote. How embarrassing. As red as a crab that had been boiled, he put his hands over his ears. I gave him credit card bills and loan papers that I found in his room's trash as the last blow. You are setting aside a lot of money to buy women's brand name items. Additionally, you have taken on nearly the same amount of debt, right? I clearly matched the numbers on the two papers with my finger. You said you were spending money for work, but you were just splurging on your mistress. Based on the dates on the loan papers and love letters, The most recent one was from 3 years ago. It seems this was not just a one-time mistake. Even though he hadn't said a word until then, my father-in-law finally broke down and spoke. "You are despicable, but I can't help it. Marion is cuter than you after all. Are you serious?" My husband's dad gave Andrew a mean look, but Andrew didn't seem to care. He imagined himself and made a sleazy grin with his lips spread wide. "Marion thinks of me first, and besides, she has a great body. Be quiet." "Hey, don't start yelling all of a sudden. You scared me." My husband's father yelled at Andrew, and my wife's mother stood next to him and quietly agreed. He also said that the maid would be fired soon. He begged his parents to forgive him, but they didn't pay any attention. He then tried to pull his arm around my shoulder in a cheeky way. "Can't you just make nice with my parents?" "Why should I have to do that?" "Because you're my wife, right? Wives should do what their husbands tell them to do. Don't rely on me only when it's convenient for you." I pushed his hand away hard and pushed him away with both hands. "I'm planning to consult a lawyer." "Are you serious about that?" "I intend to sue for child support, so be prepared." His parents told him to please think about this again after firing him from his job. He must have felt like he couldn't take me leaving him either. He bowed to me several times while sweating heavily. "Please don't abandon me." Unexpectedly, he began to cry, and his face was covered in snot and tears. He looked sad. "What you say won't change my mind, no matter what you say." Finally, my husband screamed, "I'm so sorry, please forgive me," as he got down on his knees. But because my husband was greedy, our daughter Chris had to be alone in the park in the rain and pain for a while. He had been hurting our family for years. There was no longer any reason to feel sorry for him. "I don't want to see your face or Chris ever again." Saying goodbye. I felt terrible because he stayed on the floor and cried as I left my in-laws' house. After that, we split up and agreed to pay each other $1,000 a month in child support. I sued the maid for $20,000 too. It is said that he works late at night at several physical labor jobs because he lost his job and has bills to pay. He hates living in a small room that doesn't have a bathtub. The maid broke up with him and went back to her city, where her parents scolded her very badly and left her with nowhere to go. I've heard she works for the NTI now. In the meantime, Chris and I moved into an apartment and began a new life together. I got a raise in pay because my work was noticed and appreciated. Chris is excited for school to start in April and is working hard on her writing. The best thing about my life is watching her.